Alright, there may be some construction sounds in the background. Ignore them. Today is Hobbes. Hobbes video. Yes, I read Hobbes for Tory Academy, so I'm a little bit familiar with him, so I feel like I read him a bit better than some previous books, which is nice. So yeah, my first core idea, something I've always wondered about with Hobbes, but it's he's talking about mankind and like how you need to construct government to govern the man in light of the kind of thing that man is, and he takes a very negative view of mankind, very kind of pessimistic about what man will do if he's left on his own. And so my question is he talking about wicked men or just men in general who are wicked? And so my core idea is I'm just going to assert that one wicked man is enough to make mankind a wicked thing. So even if each man isn't wicked, the existence of even one wicked man makes all of mankind the kind of thing that has wicked people, and therefore you cannot trust mankind because it is potentially wicked. Potentially, and in some cases actually wicked. So people lock their doors, not because they think that every single man will steal all of their stuff if he's given the chance, because that's clearly not true. Some people don't steal. Some people have enough self-control not to steal. Even if there wasn't law, even if there was no responsibility whatsoever, some people are good enough that they won't steal if given the chance. I think that's true. I don't think Hobbes would disagree with me, because I don't agree with total depravity in the sense that people will always choose sin. But I do, of course, agree with that. People can't save themselves, obviously. But why do I think that Hobbes doesn't disagree with me? Is because even though not every man will come in and steal my stuff, the fact that maybe one man out there will means that I still have to lock my door, because I can't trust men, because I don't know if the man walking down the street is good or bad, because he might be bad, and I need to lock my door to protect myself from even that potentiality. And so therefore I do not trust men, and therefore if I'm aiming to trust people in deals and covenants and things like that, then I need some kind of force, some kind of higher power that will instill fear should the person disagree or break the bond. So some kind of monarch, absolute monarch that will enforce laws will make me be able effectively to trust other people, because even if they're wicked, they won't betray me because they fear the law. So that's kind of Hobbes, like in broad strokes. But yeah, I think that core idea is kind of implicit, and I think pretty important in not just rejecting Hobbes outright, is that it's not that every man is wicked, but it's that one wicked man is enough to make this kind of thing necessary. I think that's what he's saying. My own personal problem with that is that it doesn't seem like that actually works. The law doesn't make everyone good. There's still people who break the law when they, you know, all the time. But there are people that break the law. And that might just be a question of like, oh, well, there's not enough power in the government. It's just a question of enforcement rather than principle. And, oh, you live in America, you don't even have an absolute monarch anyway. Your monarch doesn't have enough power, your president doesn't have enough power. So those kinds of questions can be answered. But I wonder, even in a government where the person had absolute power, the law was very strictly enforced, if there would be anyone that broke the law, and if we would even want to live in a society like that. I suppose if you enforced it strongly enough, you might reach a point where no one dared break the law, and therefore you could trust people. You wouldn't have to worry about it. I suppose that in theory could work, but I don't know if any man could have that much power. Could he? I don't know if he could even have that much power um, at this point in the world. And I don't think, pretty much for sure, that any man could handle that amount of power. Um, I think that belongs to God alone. And yeah, the problem with God ruling, though, is that we're not aware of the fact that God has vengeance, and that He will repay to each man his due, uh, which is why there's still crime, because if we're aware of the absolute um, justice that God has and absolute power that God has, then we wouldn't, I guess, out of fear for God, would not ever disobey His law or the law of His appointed ones. So, yeah. But there are people who are just stupid, you know, even though it's no way practical to break the law and it's not self-serving, really. They're either stupid or they're just bored or they just want something to do. So they don't care if it hurts themselves, but they just don't know it hurts themselves. So I wonder about those things. Um, yeah, so I think Hobbes is very interesting for that. I reject the idea of having an absolute human monarch. Um, I find Hobbes' treatment of scripture very interesting, and it's like early modern, like kind of treating scripture the way that we treat it, especially skeptics treat it, which is quite interesting. Kind of stripping it of all authority except for its own. So, like the church, let's just forget how people have interpreted it over the last 2,000 years. Let's just interpret it ourselves, kind of get back to the original meaning and stuff like that. So, it's interesting. He's not a bad guy. I don't think he kind of has a really bad rap. Um, yeah, I like him. And I would like to talk about synthesis. Hobbes definitely agrees with the idea of empiricism, that there are no innate ideas. So Locke and Hume he agrees with for sure on those things, I think, as far as I can tell. But so the synthesis is just that he agrees with them, but he takes it further, or he finds new implications in that if there are no innate ideas, then people aren't going to be kind of forced down this one road. People can do whatever they want. They can think whatever they want according to their experiences. Um, and so there's no unification between men, or there's no innate ideas provide no unification. So there's more division, there's more conflict than you might think, and that men aren't naturally inclined to agree with one another. It's an unnatural thing even for people to agree with each other. And so that's why a further reason why there needs to be this very forceful kind of government to make people agree with each other and make people not betray each other, because that's what they're inclined to do, because they all start as a blank. Everyone has different experiences. Everyone's living a different life. There's nothing to make them agree with each other, unless it's artificially imposed. Um, yeah, so that I see as a further implication of Locke's and Hume's ideas of there being no innate ideas. And personally, I don't know. I don't know if there are innate ideas or not. I think there are some uh, inescapable beliefs, some beliefs that everyone believes and that they can't stop believing them, and that I don't know if they're innate or not, or maybe they're just intuitive, like Locke says, but I think functionally they're innate, because they might as well be there at birth, because you can never be rid of them, and that you can depend upon them as if they are certain, and uh, that is acceptable. That is actually commendable, because you're not responsible for undermining the things that can't be undermined. You're not responsible to investigate things that cannot be investigated. So you shouldn't be concerned about it. It might matter if those things are true or not, but it's not your job to find out if they're true or not. That's God's job. So don't be prideful. Don't take jobs that don't belong to you. That's my thought on that.